Hey, Kyle. Fuck you. Thanks for making my life more complicated.
Yeah, you see what kind of effect I have on people? Yeah, he's not the first. What's up? Welcome to The Highway with Kyle Shutt. I am Kyle Shutt. We got such a treat for you this week on the show. We got Ken Haas, the CEO of Reverend Guitars. What guitars? Reverend Guitars. The best guitars. They got signature models from Bob Balch, Billy Corgan, Reeves Gabrels, even your boy right here, yours truly. If you like what you hear on the program, you can follow where you can follow, subscribe where you can subscribe. It really helps us out. And if you want to go one step further, get early access to next week's episode, even get yourself a shout out, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/thehighway. And anybody can get a shout out. We got Leah Montgomery this week helped us out. Thank you, Leah. Heather Roby, Burro Diablo. I'm sure you have a real name, but I'm sticking with that. And Joe Fleischer, they all helped out this month. Thank you all so much. We also have to give much mad love to our sponsors, Heil Microphones. If you like the way I sound, it's because there's a Heil in front of me. I'm having a ton of fun with this talk show. I hope you're enjoying it too. And I think I like it so much because I get to do things my way.
The Highway.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey. What's happening?
That was way nicer than your sample audio.
You're gonna share that with everybody? You should share that with everybody. Yeah.
Oh, I will. Oh, I definitely will.
Yeah.
Everybody, Ken Haas from Reverend Guitars, Railhammer Pickups, probably something else cooking up that Joe Naylor has invented that I don't even know about yet. But thanks for coming on the program. Mostly we have like musicians and things like that on this podcast, but I think it's really important to bring people from the gear side in to kind of shed some light on the relationships between artists and gear companies, and just talk about how we met and stuff. Just because I love Reverend Guitars and Railhammer Pickups, and you should too.
Everybody should.
How I don't really, structure these with any questions or anything like that I'm dying to know. But I just kind of, if you won't mind giving the listeners just a little bit of background about how you got into playing the guitar and wanting to own your own guitar company.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one, man. You're getting into my my dealer presentation speech, and then I start to sound rehearsed, and then people nod off. So we're gonna avoid that by drinking. We're gonna make it a drinking game. Every time.
That sounds good.
Yeah, every time I start talking about myself, everybody has to do a shot.
You got it.
So I hope
I'm ready.
Shots. All right, here we go. I went to a Catholic high school, and I don't remember why, because I'm not like a Catholic person. I think I was distracted by girls or something. I had to go to this like all guys Catholic high school, and I had nothing. It just didn't click for some reason with me. There was nothing that, none of the usual high school. Like every musician tells this story. Well, I just didn't fit in there. It just didn't fit in. But I didn't, and I had this like weird idea of what music was, because I used to sit up at night and listen to like the Dr. Demento radio show and stuff. And so I spent like my middle school and high school years talking about Captain Sensible and shit that people had no idea what I was talking about. And then one day I discovered, just sort of walking down the hall in the high school, a kid with some Misfits paraphernalia hanging in his locker who I never really talked to. And I was like, dude, Bose, what's with that? And we started talking about punk rock, and we started going to shows. And the natural progression of that is I want to do this, One of the first shows that we went to, I'm 51 now, one of the first shows that I saw when I was 16 years old, was the last Black Flag tour with Henry Rollins.
Dang.
I saw their second to last show in Ann Arbor, Michigan, with a couple other SST bands, Painted Willie and Gone, opening. And we spent a lot of time stalking SST bands, and I was just into I was into the SST stuff. I was really into Dag Nasty. I was really into the Descendants. And was really into Husker Du. And on top of all that, I was really into I got really into this weird like metal thing that was going on in the late 80s too. I got really into Creator and Coroner. And so I kept trying to like put all these styles together into one band, like have this sort of like heaviness thing, but have like the sort of punk rock energy, but have like the ringing chords instead of the palm muting all the time. And so we basically had this weird band that was unlistenable.
What was it called?
It ended up being called the Culture Bandits, and I did it off and on for between 1987 and the late 90s. But
that's a good band name.
But originally it was a 3-piece, and we did a 3-piece as a 3-piece for 3 or 4 years, and then we disbanded for a couple years. Our drummer went off to be in an alternative tentacles band called Queen Bee and Goober and the Peas, and he did stuff. And we eventually started it up again in the late 90s with another drummer and a different guitar player. And it was a lot of fun, but like the early incarnation of it, it was just one of those bands that all the other bands in town went to see. I always had crazy drummers, and we did weird stuff. You know what I mean? It was like some sort of weird like punk rock Rush thing or something where we always had like parts and all this different shit, and we thought about it way too much. You know what I mean?
That's
and
awesome.
The band was really the best when we just like let go and played rock music, but we didn't do that. We were really heady and stuff, and it was just at times, I guess, and it was just so. I started just becoming fascinated with the guitar itself, and I don't know what it's not really a straight path. My uncle played guitar and passed away when I was 11 years old, and I inherited his Tele and his twin. I have a 68 Tele and a 65 twin. You've played through the 65 twin at my office.
Yeah.
It's the one of the amps that's in the Reverend studio. And so I had these things, but I didn't know how to work a Telecaster. I had to have guitars with humbuckers and because I didn't learn how to work a Tele until I was 40. But and by the late 90s, I was just buying and selling guitars. I kept going to guitar shows and doing, just getting my hands on them and moving. And I had everything. I went through a big Ibanez phase in the early 90s, and then I went through the obligatory Strat phase, and I always had Les Pauls, but I was always more comfortable with bolt-on necks. I always wanted to find a Les Paul that worked, but I could never really find one that worked for me. Unlike you, I know you were out there playing some whopper 12, 13-pounders for a little while. I guess my shoulders just weren't as strong as yours, Kyle.
I was young. I was very young at the time, and I think the Silverburst one I had, I think that was 14 pounds.
Good Lord.
It was crazy. I had learned to shred on a Guild S100, which is a very small guitar. It's like a Sensei or an SG kind of style guitar. Sure. But we played with a band called the Lord Weird Slaufeg. That was one of my favorite bands back in the early 2000s. And their singer Mike Scalzi, he just tore ass on a Les Paul, and I was like, my God, that's like playing a log.
Right.
I don't know. I just felt like I had something to prove. I was like, no, if I can shred on a Les Paul, I can shred on anything. So that was kind of my ego getting in the way of style for a little bit there. But yeah, that's kind of how I learned to just do all my crazy double tapping and stuff on a Les Paul. Yeah. But then I sold them all because of reasons we'll get into later. But but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. By the late 90s, I was regularly buying and selling guitars, and it got to be less about I'm looking for this tone or that tone or whatever, because I had the stuff that I played that I liked. I had a handful of guitars that, I still have this one. It's a really weird early Fender custom shop set neck Telecaster. So it's a 24 3/4 scale mahogany.
Whoa.
Mahogany Tele with 2 DiMarzios in it and a hardtail bridge. And it's got this quilted top. It's like a 3-tone burst. It's not the flashiest thing in the world, but it just fucking sounded great. everything I plugged it into, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I that was mostly what I played out with, was that one, and like an American Standard Strat or whatever. And then one day I was bumming around a music store in Detroit, and there was one of Naylor's early Reverend guitars hanging on the wall, and it said East Point, Michigan on the headstock, and I was like, well, shit, that's right over on the other side of town. Like, what is this? You know, and I took it down and played it, and those original Reverend guitars are just really funky and cool. And it was so light and so different, and it was made in Detroit, and I was like, so of course I bought it, and then at the time, I was my day job. I was doing like automotive stuff, and I was selling paint and sandpaper to body shops and light industrial shit like that. And so I just looked up Joe, get this, in the yellow pages. I looked up Reverend Guitars. It was 1999, and I just went and banged on the back door and asked if I could sell him sandpaper for his machines and stuff that he was using in the shop. And then he and I just started to be friends, and he invited me to go to a NAMM show with him. I went to Summer NAMM, it was 99 or 2000. I had never been to one. And when it was in Nashville, when the Nashville NAMM show was really a hopping thing still. And I walked in the door, and there was a place where if you came in off of 2nd Avenue, if you didn't come in off Broadway, if you came in off 2nd, you would be at the top of these stairs, and there were some rooms upstairs in their old convention center, and then you could look down over the main floor through this like glass wall. And I looked down over the main floor and saw all these booths set up with guitars and amps and shit, and it was over. Like I mean, like right then and there, it was crazy. Like my career that I had been nursing for 7 or 8 years. Fuck, my first marriage, if we're going to be honest, was over right then and there. Like, I looked at it and I was just like, I am completely doing the wrong thing with my life, and I just knew it. And from that moment forward, everything was about being a part of that life or whatever. And it just happened to work out that at that show, I was there, like I said, I was there with Naylor, of course, with Reverend. And I accidentally sold a couple of guitars to a player named Will Ray, who, I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he was in a band called the Telecasters. And they're just this wicked, mostly instrumental tele guys, and Will still writes a column in Premier Guitar on vintage gear, and he's just a fascinating player, like just a master with the slide. And the other guys in the band were Jerry Donahue and Jorgensen from, what's his name? I can see him. He plays with...
I don't know. I wish I knew.
Elton John. Sorry. He plays with Elton John. But these three guys, they just put out these crazy, amazing records, and the shredding and the harmonies and all that shit, and clean stuff. It's nuts. And I just ran into him, and he asked me about Reverend because he saw it on my badge. And I went into the whole thing. I'm like, oh, dude, you got to meet Joe. And, the guitars are this and that and this and that. And then about a half hour later, I walked by the booth, and Joe's getting a check from him, And Will's like, oh, there's Ken. Yeah, he's Will told me about you. He's a real nice guy there. And Will goes away, and Joe was like, dude, like, what'd you do? How'd you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just started talking to him. And then Naylor said the magic words, I'm going to bring you to every one of these. And you just go out and on the floor and you bring guys like that over here. And I was like, shit, yeah. And then that led to me doing guitar shows like local, the Dallas International Guitar Festival, of course, the Philly shows, local shows here around Detroit and in Ohio, the Columbus, Cleveland, that kind of those shows. But then also the NAMM shows for Joe for the next 5 or 6 years. And Joe would often pay me in gear, which was fine with me. And I was using all of my vacation time from my, day jobs to go to do guitar shows. And that went on until about 2006 when at one of these shows, Joe was just launching the Stage King line. It was called at the time, and it was when Reverend introduced the Jetstream and the Charger. And this happened to be the year that we introduced the the Daredevil and the Roundhouse and the Manta Ray, which are all the predecessors to the Senseis and the Continental Shutt model that we make now. And at that show, people just really connected with what Joe was doing, and I got more aggressive at that show because I was sort of, I'd quit my day job at that point. I owned a small business for a few years, like in automotive, and I decided to shut it down. So I was like gonna have to come home from this NAMM show and get a real job, and I didn't want to, and I ended up selling, I think, close to 500 guitars at that show.
Dang.
And Naylor at the end of that show was like, dude, I want to hire you as my sales director. All these, you made a lot of contacts at the show, and people are going to want to talk to you when they call in and everything. And I was like, yes, finally. So that was how I started working for Joe. And then long story short, I mean, a few years went by, and we had that recession in 2008, and stuff got kind of crummy.
Yeah.
And Joe was spending too much time, the thing that they say, where you work at your business, but you don't work on your business, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I have to watch that too. But Joe is a brilliant designer, and holds patents in this industry. I mean, all of the Reverend stuff he designs. He designed the Railhammer pickups, of course. But there's a slew of other products that have come and gone over the years, and brands that he has started, like String Dog and Armor Gold and a few things, and All-Tone speakers that have moved on to other people as well. And the Reverend thing, Joe was, I think, managing, employees and taxes and all of the bullshit was just sucking the creative life out of the guy. And so he was looking to sell the company and realign himself as more of a consultant or whatever. And basically Penny and I just didn't want to see him sell the company to some doofus, and because that can happen in this business. I don't know if you know that.
I can think of a few names.
Yeah, right. And so we were so Penny and I made him an offer, and it was probably, it was what we could afford, but along with that offer was, dude, you are the guy. You design the guitars, and we don't tell you what to design, and away you have the creative freedom to do what you want to do with this thing, and we'll give you a percentage for as long as you want to do that. And it's turned out to be a really good thing for the two of us. And so Naylor and I have a very unique relationship, especially as a band guy, because being in a working, touring band, you're friends with the guys you're in a band with, but you are also in business together, and that can be a bitch, And Naylor and I are in a unique situation where we were friends before I started working for him, and me working for him didn't ruin that. And then those roles kind of changed, and then me owning the company and him, working for me didn't change that friendship either. And we still get along, as you know. We've spent plenty of time together. And Naylor's like,
I love hanging out with y'all. It's so fun. It's kind of like tour friends. We don't get to see each other all that often, but when we do, there's always plenty of whiskey to go around, and it's so fun.
Naylor's a ride, dude. I mean, he's an absolute blast. You always know where he stands. And then the cool thing too with the Reverend is, of course, then my wife Penny jumped into this with me and helped me from a distance for the first few years while our kids were little, and she needed to be around the house, and she started getting into the marketing stuff. And now that our kids are bigger and we've moved the business closer to our home, she heads up all of our advertising and does all the visual stuff that you see. She runs all the social media. She helps me with customer service on the social media. And that's another thing. I mean, Penny and I we've been married for 18 years last week. And we've been running this.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. We've been running the business together for 10, and we've also figured out how to make it work. So it's, I'm really, really fortunate, man. I feel it with all the friends and family around me doing the holidays. They're getting to me, bud. Getting to me.
What do they say? It's like a family owned and operated and argued over.
Yeah, right. Something like that, yeah.
Classic family business. Well, that's a fucking rad story, man. I actually found out about Reverend through. This is where we're gonna get into. Just so y'all know at home, we're about to drop so many names.
Yeah, oh yeah, here it comes.
On you. It was through Chris Funk from the Decemberists.
Yep.
I got a random email from him asking if I would participate in a benefit for the Children's Cancer Association during an event at South by Southwest. This would have been 2015, I think. Maybe 2016. Somewhere in there, but the whole idea was that there was this company that was making an air guitar sort of Bluetooth wristband thing that you could wear, and you could play air guitar on whatever stereo you were hooked up to. It was kind of like a toy for kids. It was fun.
Yeah, no, it was cool.
But they wanted to have like a shred off, but with a real, heavy metal shredder, where a kid would come up and battle me with a real guitar, and they would have like the air guitar wristband thing on, and I thought it was a really funny idea, but then I wanted to take it a step further, and I was like, well, whoever wins should get a guitar. And I called a couple of music shops around town, and I got no response to see if they could give me just a inexpensive beginner's kind of model and to give away, but no dice there. But Chris reached out to you, and you provided us with, I believe, was it a flat rock?
Probably a flat rock or a buckshot or something.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. And so when I showed up to the event, they had I think Taco Cat was playing. They had a Marshall stack that they were letting me borrow, and I plugged the Reverend into it, and it was instant. It felt right in my hand just right away. I was like, this is a really nice guitar.
Yeah.
And I was able to shred on it, and it was so fun. It was this little 9-year-old girl that was the one that volunteered to be the other person in the shred off. And obviously she won the shred off. And then whenever I took the guitar off and took a knee to present it to her, she freaked out. Her and her whole family freaked out. They didn't know they were going to win a guitar.
Oh, that's awesome.
I hope if you're out there, I hope you still have it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that made a positive impact in your life. But that was hands down the most wholesome thing I ever did for South by. It's the complete opposite of every other year, pretty much. But I don't remember who contacted who, but I remember looking at your website after that and just thinking, wow, these are, great guitars. And I was kind of wanting to get into a hollow body thing at the time. I had sort of played my Les Pauls to death, and I was just looking to kind of like break up my style a little bit and just experiment with other things. And you have Pete Anderson, who is one of my favorite guitar players and record producers of all time. He produced the first 4 Dwight Yoakam albums, which I cherish those things, and he's just a fantastic guitar player. And so I was looking at his models and all the hollow body ones that he does and stuff, and I just thought it would be really cool to try some of that out. And we were going to be playing, was it the Magic Stick?
It was.
In Detroit, or maybe
Majestic.
the State Theater?
Majestic Theater.
Majestic, yeah. And I think I emailed y'all, and I remember y'all wanting me to kind of hop on the Sensei game, and I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling a hollow body thing, and for whatever reason, I don't know, y'all were like, well, that's kind of a special deal, I don't know, why don't we bring you a Man Ray, and I think you brought a Tricky Gomez, who is also one of my favorite guitar players.
Yeah,
Tricky
Duke
Gomez,
Wales.
If y'all haven't heard of him, please go check him out.
Yeah, he will.
But so you brought those out, and I just I threw them just right in the boat, and I played the whole show with them. I didn't think y'all were expecting me to play the entire show with them, but I was really, really impressed with the way they played, and also those bodies are a little bit bigger, and they make me look a little bit smaller because I'm not a small guy necessarily, and they were great, and I had a great time. We all had a blast, just drinking whiskey backstage and just talking about guitars and stuff, and it was really great to get to know y'all. And then before I could even say anything, I think you and Joe were both like, so are we doing a signature model or what? And I was like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. It wasn't my intention to make that happen by the end of the day, but I mean, I think we were all pretty much in alignment there with what to do. And
well, you said a couple things. You said a couple things in that clicked with Naylor. So like one of the things that's cool about working with Joe is watching Joe work with artists, because he's a freaky good guitar analyst and technician, right? And like one of the things that he does is if he's going to set up somebody's guitar personally, he'll watch them play and get in tune to where they are on the neck most of the time on the instrument, and set up the instrument to really be intonated for where this person plays most of the time. Like, where are you comfortable? And there are people that like do the majority of their work around the, you know, the lower section of the neck, or you know, your guys that play up around the 7th fret all the time and base everything around that 7th fret E on the A string or whatever. And he takes that stuff and he thinks about it and he works that into the way when he's setting up a guitar. But when he's designing a guitar, like, there was a thing that you said that night, because you played the Man Ray for a lot of the set, and you also played the Tricky Gomez for a couple songs, and you came over right away and told Naylor what you liked and disliked about each one. And right away, Naylor had an idea in his head of how he could correct what you were looking for, and knew that it would be an awesome guitar if we did it. You know what I mean? And it was basically, we just made it less semi-hollow, and we put a little more wood on the bass side of the guitar so that the attack on the bass side stayed tight when you were riffing and palm muting, yet still had that warmth and openness of the semi-hollow. And Joe just, like, it just clicked with him when you were describing what you were talking about. And that's when Joe said something to me like, "Oh, we should really do this model." I'm like, "Oh, fucking absolutely. Yeah, let me do another shot, and then I'll just drop signature model on him, and we'll see what he says."
Yeah, and you know, it was flattering, and I was really taken aback just because I'm by far the least famous signature model y'all have. I mean, you've got Reese Gabrels, who is with The Cure. He was with David Bowie forever, obviously. Billy Corgan, Bob Balch. You know, even in Fu Manchu, like, you could call us colleagues, but I mean, that guy's a monster shredder. You know what I mean? So even all that being said, I was like, okay. I mean, I honestly didn't think we would sell that many. I was just happy to do it, and it was a cool, you know, project and stuff. But it's gone really well.
Yeah, it's done really well.
I mean,
it's different. You know, it's cool, man.
It is. One thing that I do like about it is that even though they are signature pickups in the guitar that Joe designed for me as well, to go on my super distortion in the bridge and the P90 in the neck sort of vibe, and that those have the signature on them, and then the truss rod cover has the signature on it. But you can take those off and make it your own guitar, which was really important to me. Which I hope that was clear to people, I guess, when they were looking at the models, just because like, it doesn't have my big dumb signature on it somewhere that you can't get rid of.
Your bridge pickup is Naylor's favorite of all the rail hammers.
I know. I'm really proud of that fact.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't
design it. I just told him what to do. But yeah, I picked that combo after Tom Scholes from Boston. It's just like the sickest guitar tone ever. I tell that to people, and they're like, "Really, Boston?" I was like, "Have you not heard More Than a Feeling or just fucking rock and roll band?"
People don't think about the tone when they hear that stuff. They just think about the shtick and the cheesiness of it and stuff. And they don't. But I mean, Tom was a freak, man. I mean, what he did with electronics and circuits and all that rock band stuff that he made for all those years. I mean, he was a tweaker, dude. He really did some cool shit.
And it's that first Boston album's like a crash course in home recording.
Yeah.
Like, when people realize like that 99% of that album was made in a basement, like at home, it's just like blows people's minds.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it was so fun designing all that for you and stuff. I mean, we do we have. Can we tell people?
I don't care
about what's coming up next. Yeah, we have a new version of it coming out soon. I don't know. Sure. Yeah, it's going to be a gold top style,
gold,
which I'm super excited about. Just because, you know, we did the original runs, and then we did the white one for Doom Side of the Moon, which it was really funny whenever I called you with my idea of Doom Side of the Moon. I was like, I've got this heavy metal, you know, Pink Floyd, you know, laser show band that I'm going to do, but we're going to dress in all white, and I need white instruments and this and that. Do you have? I asked you if you had I think I wanted one of your Volcanoes.
Yeah.
Or something like that was white, because I didn't want to like put you out, you know, and because y'all have been so generous to me over the years. The last thing in the world I'd want to do is just ask you for something more and get on your nerves. But I was trying to go as easy on you as possible, and the first thing you said was like, "You don't want a Volcano? We need to do your guitar in white. Just give me a minute. Hang on." And you just like called up your factory in Korea and got a color sample and just sent it to me out of nowhere. I mean, just out of the kindness of your heart, pretty much is how that felt. And I'll never forget you for that.
That was
awesome.
Man.
It's probably one of my favorites, because we have the piezo bridge in that one that we routed out, and just that one just resonates just way different than the the other models. I love that guitar. But I also didn't know that you were also in a Pink Floyd tribute band, and that was one more way that we bonded. I'll let you. I'll let you describe. The spin on that one.
I played a Pink Floyd tribute polka band. It's guitar, bass, drums, Hammond organ, and accordion. And I was in a cover in the dark period right before I started with Reverend as the sales director. I was in I had a really good bartending job for a little while, and the place went under. Unfortunately, apparently I was the only one making money there, and then heaven forbid, I needed money. I had little kids and a beautiful young wife, and I needed cash, and so I played in a cover band for maybe a solid year and a half. And it was like a big cover band with a horn section and it was a 9-piece band. And I learned a lot of crap that I never would have learned how to play. All of that, Mustang Sally and Vehicle and Brown Eyed Girl and all that fucking shit that those bands do.
That stuff makes you a better player.
But it does.
When you learn a song, you don't want to know. Yeah.
It truly did make me a better player. And I gained some respect for some of that material. Like, if you've ever played the song Domino by Van Morrison, it is the fucking most badass guitar part. It is like fun as hell. And so I discovered some stuff that I thought was kind of cool in doing that. But anyways, a couple of the guys in that band were also polka musicians. And they would, like, we would do like a bar gig or like, weddings and shit like that, And sometimes their polka band leader would come and pick them up at 2 a.m. from our gig. And they would be driving out to the East Coast to do like a polka festival the next day. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, you're going to drive, 11 hours to New York City from Toledo, and you're leaving at 2 a.m. Well, yeah, I mean, we're playing, we're going to be playing at 4 tomorrow afternoon or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, why on earth would you do that? And then I found out what those guys got paid. And I was like, holy shit. And then it never occurred to me that I would ever play polka. I just thought it was the funniest thing in the world, right? Like, polka. Okay. And then at rehearsal a couple weeks later, our idiot singer was late. And I just, for no reason, started playing Comfortably Numb with a polka shuffle. I do like a thumb and finger style thing. Like, I don't use a pick all the time. And I just started, and of course all these Polacks just started playing with me, right? And then of course they knew all the changes because everybody knows the song and stuff. And we ended up doing the whole song. And then one of the horn guys was like, "Oh, you guys are Polka Floyd," and that was it. It stuck. And those guys then I would come to practice and I'd be like, "So listen, here's how I think we could do like Have a Cigar in polka. Like, we do this and this with the beat." Oh, that's really cool. And then, we could play Wish You Were Here and turn this part into a waltz. And it just, like, it all just happened so naturally. And then the drummer wanted to record it to play through the PA when they would do festivals with their big polka band. And big polka band, I said it. But, I mean, a couple of those guys have, like, Grammys and shit. I mean, polka is a thing that happens out there. So, And then we recorded, and then we're like, well, we should do a gig. And then we've been gigging for 15 years. And we do festivals all over the country. We've played at the NAMM show in California. We were invited to play out there once, which was quite a thrill and also a little terrifying to get up in front of the industry and do something so goofy. But the thing is that we do it well. You know what I mean? Like, it's it's kind of like when somebody and totally inspired by. If it weren't for Dred Zeppelin, that band, I would have never started the Polka Floyd show if it weren't for Dred Zeppelin, right? And when you explain Dred Zeppelin to somebody, people are like, "Oh, that's fucking idiocy." And then you see them play, and you're like, "These guys are gods," because they're gods. It's absolutely amazing, right? And I just hope to inspire that kind of energy. The guys in my band are really good, and so we take it seriously and do it right, and it's fun.
That's really cool, man. And but like, because you're
so long. I'm sorry.
No, this I love that connection between us. We have so much in common in so many unexpected ways. Yeah. And another one is that, and most people at home, I'm writing a book right now called Written in Stoned, just about my life and music. And but a lot of people don't know that the first touring band I was ever in was a ska band that I played trombone in. It was back when I was 15. I would have done anything to be in a band. That's all I ever wanted to do. Like, come hell or high water, I was gonna be in a fucking band. And no, you know.
I knew you played in a ska band, but I didn't know you played bone. That's hilarious.
It was trombone, and because I saw this band and their trombone player sucked, and I went up to the band and I was like, hey, you know, I played trombone, and if you give me your tape, I'll learn your songs. And I saw you have a show in Odessa next week, because I lived in Midland at the time. Odessa was the next town over. And I said, if I learn all your songs, do you think I could play with you guys? And they were all, 20, 21, and I was 15. I had to have looked like 10 at the time, and I don't know why they agreed to let me do it, but I played the show with them. I met them for sound check, and they were like, well, this kid can play, all right. And they let me get in the van with them. My folks were okay with it. We wouldn't tour per se. We would do like long weekends of gigging and stuff like that. But I came back, to high school after that, just like, y'all, this is all bullshit. Like,
yeah, man. I've seen the real world.
To be in school right now. I know, right? Yeah, I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And so on and so forth. I quit. I was only in the band for about a year and a half. I quit. I started to get more into like just hardcore, just hardcore punk, hardcore ska. Eventually led me down to like, grindcore bands like Nazum and Converge and stuff. And I sort of just got into metal that way. But I still love ska music. And like ska has so much in common with polka, really. And that's kind of like your main gig these days is playing with ska bands, right?
Yeah, it's weird because the accent is on the other beats. So it's
yeah.
I have to unlearn things. And I mean, I do okay if I just get my thumb out of it. If I just play the upstrokes with my fingers, but I play in a band called Jay Navarro and the Traders with Jay Navarro from the Mighty Suicide Machines out of Detroit, and we're it's a blast, man. And Jay, a few years ago, wanted to dabble into something that was a little more traditional ska-wise. One of his really good friends up in Detroit's a guy named Eric Abbey, who's from Super Dot, and he's in a great band called 1492, and he runs this collective called the Detroit Rhythm Crew, which is it's a group of Detroit musicians and a group of Jamaican musicians that record together. Eric flies down to Jamaica and records all these guys and brings the tracks back and fits. I've had the honor of getting to play some of this stuff. It's really, really cool. And so Jay wanted to do something a little more traditional, whereas the Suicide Machines is way more into the punk rock side of ska. And so he just started assembling a band, and he saw me playing Polka Floyd, and he's like, dude, I want you to be my guitar player for this thing I'm doing, which is really, really cool. But the weird thing is I lean on Jay really heavily to play all the rhythm in that band because Navarro's ska rhythm guitar playing is unnatural, and makes me feel like really kind of inadequate. The dude is just such a natural at it, it's crazy.
Yeah. But your role in the band is more of like the shredder anyway. Like,
here's
licks in between the verses and stuff like that.
Well, there's only a trombone in the band, and so I like to think of myself as the saxophone. And so I play accent stuff with the trombone player, and the trombone player and I dual leads often, which is rad. And it's really different, man. It's really fun. And the band is called Jay Navarro and the Traders, and we're working on our second full length right now. And there's one full length out and an EP out on Asbestos Records, and we get to do, because of Jay's notoriety, we get to do really cool shit. We went over to Japan for a couple weeks summer before last. Which was like unbelievable, and got to tour around Japan with Coquettish, which is a great fucking ska band over there, like mind blowing. And we get to do fun shit, man. It's really cool. And I'm not young. I'm 51 years old. Now I got to, of course, obviously this last year has been kind of a bummer for everybody, but I mean, it's exciting, preparing for, next year and the year after and what's going to come, and working on this full length is just kind of giving me like this thing to look forward to. I really like the band and the songs and where we're going and what we're doing. So you have something to look forward to once we get all this shit behind us too, in this upcoming year too, right? With the Sword.
Yeah. Well, the Sword, it was kind of, we had been on a hiatus for a while without any real idea of when we were going to return, and it took Primus calling us up out of the blue.
Yeah.
To get us and asking us to open their Rush tribute tour, which was crazy enough in itself.
Totally.
And so it was literally like us all on the phone, like, we're getting the band back together. You know, and as it couldn't have come at a cooler time for me personally. I mean, my year ended up so much differently than it was supposed to be.
Yeah,
everybody's
totally.
did, but
everybody's did, yeah. For sure.
But yeah, it's still in the books. It hasn't been canceled or anything like that. So
I can't wait to
supposedly
see that
July
thing.
and August we're gonna do it. You know, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm gonna say it. Who cares? And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that Primus wasn't just going to cover Rush's Farewell to Kings. They were gonna like get the gear that Rush used during those tours, and like I don't know about the exact gear. I just mean
I know what
get the entire experience as dialed in as possible to sound like that. And that is no easy task. I just covered. I've been doing a series of free cover songs just during the quarantine time, just to sort of try to brighten people's days.
Yeah, right.
And I just covered Temples of Syrinx, and I mean, it is so hard. Even one of the easier Rush songs. Like, those guys were three geniuses that just created this sound that a lot of people like to bag on or complain about or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, you play that shit, man. That is not fucking easy. Even a band like Primus, like, I'm sure they were like, just like, hey, let's do that. That'll be cool. And then I'm sure they were having some moments of just like, oh God, what were we thinking? But
I got to show Guitars to Alex once. And this is a really funny story.
I heard he's a sweet guy.
He was so nice to me, dude. It was ridiculous. I worked with this. I worked with, and it's another sad story. But one of my favorite bands in the universe was a Canadian band called the Tragically Hip, and I grew up on the Canadian border up here in Detroit and Toledo area, and so we get Canadian radio, and that band always did well, you know, with gigs in Detroit and northern Ohio and Toledo and Cleveland and everything because of that. And they're just an awesome band with this really innovative singer and with just a lot of really interesting shit to say. And the guitar playing in that band was awesome. Really cool, a lot of really cool riffy stuff. And I don't know if it's just a Canadian thing or whatever, but yeah, they would have their sort of verse chorus songs, but then they would have songs that just told a story, that just went. You know what I mean? Without a refrain.
Yeah.
And
totally.
and that kind of shit is like, really, that kind of shit interests me, you know? And so I stalked the Tragically Hip for years to get them playing Reverend shit. And I finally got the guitar players using my stuff, you know, here and there, and it got worked into their mix, and then they used Reverends on the last 4 studio albums that they recorded before their singer passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so I got to be pretty good friends with Rob Baker, their lead player, and I was talking to him on the phone one day because you know this, you've seen this when you're out on the road too. A lot of bands, and especially when you get like up on that level, a lot of bands share touring gear. You know, totally. I have like a weird relationship with one of the guys in Mark Knopfler's band, and I've got to show guitars to Mark Knopfler a few times too. It was my like all-time hero. And you go to like a Mark Knopfler show, and it's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers gear on all the road cases, backstage and shit. but I mean that's how, because they use each other's stuff when they're in each other's countries, and who knows how these arrangements are worked out and stuff. So I knew Rush was touring the States, and they were coming through Toledo, and Canadian bands. I knew that some of the guys on the Hips crew were doing the Rush tour, and so I'm talking to Rob Baker on the phone, and I said, "Hey man, I know some of your crew dudes are out on the Rush tour. Do you think you could reach out to somebody and see if you could get me in? I'd like to show a couple guitars to Alex, because they were doing B cities, and when they were touring for playing with that one tour where they played Moving Pictures, they played at Huntington Arena in Toledo, and I was like, do you think you could get me into the Toledo show? I'd really like to meet Alex." And Robbie doesn't say anything for a really long time, and then he goes, "Well, I mean, I could ask the crew guys if you want, but I'm playing golf with Alex on Sunday. Do you want me to just ask him?" And then he started laughing at me and never let me forget about it. Oh, you want me to ask the crew, asshole? And so yeah, he hooked us up, and Alec, we went down there with a handful of guitars, actually a Manta Ray and a Sensei, and Alex played them during sound check, you know, and we're standing on the side of the stage with his guitar tech watching him play our shit, and of course everything was done in ears, and there were no like amp stacks on stage or anything, so we couldn't hear a fucking thing while he was like playing around with them, which was kind of weird, but and then like but when I met him, he's like, "Oh, you're Robbie's friend Ken, so tell me about Reverend Guitars." That was the first thing out of his mouth, and I was just like so blown away. I didn't know what to say. I was like, I love you. I was so ill prepared for him to ask me a question, you know. And then it was really, really cool. And he ended up getting the Sensei from me, and he has it in his studio. And he sent me a little note a couple of months later telling me how proud I should be for making such great guitars and shit. And I had like that note like framed on the wall in my office because it's fucking Alex Lifeson, man. You know,
yeah,
it's like amazing. The dude's a legend. And you know, he played on the last Fu Manchu record.
I know he did the Working Man. No, not the Working Man cover. God damn it.
Yeah.
What was it called?
But those guys mixed that for them or something. There's something going on with the Working Man thing too. But no, oh shit, what
was the song called? I can't remember. Is that like 10-minute song? Yeah, that Alex played on. It's pretty fucking rad.
Yeah, it's super rad. And when Bob called me and told me that, I'm like, dude, that's. And you're right. Bob is a machine, man. That dude can play anything. We've put him up, like, we did a thing with him and Greg Koch, and the two of them started, like, doing some sort of jazz shit, and then I'm sitting in between Greg Koch and Bob Balch holding a guitar like a moron.
I know, that's how I feel when I'm hanging around Greg. I'm just like, good Lord, he can do anything. Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, right, I'm gonna play. On the other hand,
say, like,
people ask me what it's like doing demos with Greg Koch all the time, and I'm always like, well, the thing that's cool about playing with Greg is you're never going to hang with the dude, so you just lose all pretense that you're going to be able to hang with the dude and just relax and have fun. Like, whatever you do is going to be just fine because this dude plays circles around everybody on the planet.
Yeah, he's also hanging around you and him, too. Greg, I don't know if people have met him. He's also, like, 6'7". Yeah, you're a tall guy yourself. And so, like, hanging around you guys is the only time I actually feel little.
And Greg's kid plays drums in Greg's band. Kid's 6'10".
Good Lord.
He's a monster.
What is going on with that man's DNA?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take up your whole night. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about Reverend. One of my favorite companies out there right now, that it's actually my favorite company. And it's just because you care about your artists. Y'all have stuck with me through the ups and the downs and the changes. And I've never felt once that there's ever been an ounce of regret in bringing me on, and that it means so much to me. And I just wanted to say thank you for being there for me.
Thank you for being there for us and talking about us, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, and
you're gonna have to
look forward to this gold guitar. It's gonna be a beaut. I'm excited.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna have to actually kick me off your roster to get me to go away because I'm playing Reverend for life.
Nice. Nice.
I absolutely love y'all, and we usually have our guests play us out with a song. Do you have anything from the Traders that you want to throw on? I don't know. I'm not sure if you can play any new stuff, but if you have any favorite tracks off one of your old records, I'd love to play it for the people.
Yeah, man. Right Apart off the first record, because it's got the fun trombone / guitar lead we were talking about earlier. So enjoy, everybody. Right Apart, Jay Navarro and the Traders.
Hell yeah! Thank you so much, Ken.
Yeah, man. Be good.
Seen the world fall apart. Oh yeah, right apart. It tore a hole, tore a hole, tore a hole, tore a hole right through my heart, right through my heart. the world fall apart. Oh yeah, right apart.
All I see, poor people suffering, working hard every day, still getting less pay. The rich have it all. About us, they don't care. I see suffering everywhere. I see starvation. Looking for a better day. Hope a better day come, yeah. Good. Never gonna give up on our struggle, no day. Hey. So fed up, yeah. Good. Yeah. The rich have it all. They don't want to share.
I've seen the world fall apart. Oh yeah, right apart. I've seen the world fall apart. Oh yeah, right apart. They tore a hole, tore a hole, tore a hole, tore a hole right through my heart, right through my heart. I've seen the world fall apart.
Thanks so much for tuning into The Highway this week. A big shout out to Reverend Guitars, Railhammer Pickups, and Earthquaker Devices. If you liked what you heard, you can follow where you can follow, subscribe where you can subscribe, and if you want to go one step further, you can support us on Patreon at The Highway with Kyle Shutt. For a few bucks a month, you can help us keep this party going, get early access to next week's episode, and even get yourself a shout out.